Oh, whoops. All right, I got it. Okay, well, here's our big group discussion on polyamory.
All two of us.
So I think this is actually a really good metaphor for what it is to be polyamorous in my vicarious experience of it. Like all these people are, oh, yeah, I'm so interested in polyamory. And then when it comes down to it, it's like you and
Ghosted.
someone, yeah, like, it's just like you and your primary partner in a room, and all the people that said they were going to show up to your party are like, I'm
Just
busy.
kidding.
All right. Well, anyway. We're here to talk about polyamory, or which apparently, at least some places internationally, is poly with an I, polyamory, but in anywhere I've seen it is PLOY. Wait,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I'm not the letters person. You're the letters person. I should have
I'm the
left that.
letters person, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and let's see. We got the flag here, which, as we discussed, is sort of a controversial flag because it's very. I just think it's quite striking. It's look at
I
that.
do. I think it is as well.
It's got, you got blue, red, black, and this nice pie symbol right there. I mean, that's not
Hmm.
bad. It's a nice flag. But there's like a million alternate versions because there's people who are like, ugh, I don't like that. And
Yeah,
so
I've
they make
seen
it
one
their
that's like
own.
all red with a yellow pie in the middle, and
Hmm.
I've seen ones with like infinity on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Infinity and heart intertwined, and then the colors
Yes.
are always different. And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, whatever.
We
There's a
haven't figured
million
it out.
different versions. Yeah. And it's not like there's like a polyamory council that's going to be like, and this is the correct flag.
Right.
But anyway, so what other symbols would you say are associated with polyamory?
Mm. I've really only seen the pie and the infinity. Yeah, with the heart through the center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really haven't seen a lot beyond that. Sometimes people do the whole little like stick figure relationship sort of thing where they include multiple people. So it's like representation, but
Mm-hmm.
not a whole lot of symbols just directly associated with it, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think people are still like trying to figure it out, you know?
Yeah. Well, the pressure to be heteronormative is strong,
Right?
and
Yeah,
and that's
sure.
one thing that I do think before we go any further, we probably ought to touch on is that polyamory isn't really part of the queer umbrella, but I'm still including it as like a micro label because it's sort of one of those labels where people kind of doubt that it exists. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of the things that polyamorous people kind of go through definitely overlap a lot, at least with the ace community, I think, for sure.
Hmm.
Because, we're not into like the normal relationship structure. And so you guys have a lot of that going on too. And it's sort of a trope within the aspec community that all of our friends are polyamorous, or a lot of them,
Right.
because it's hard, that you guys understand that that your partner, your primary romantic partner, isn't the end all be all, and you can still have important adult relationships with people outside of that.
Yeah.
And that's hard for us, because a lot of times we'll be friends with people who are alloromantic and monogamous, and as soon as they get in a relationship, we just stop existing to them. And,
Yeah.
and I don't think that happens as much when you've got, poly friends. So, although, sometimes a new partner can kind of suck up somebody's time, but that's always true, I think.
Yeah, I feel like there is definitely a big need to find balance Like some people are very, very structured in how they practice their polyamory. Like they have this time set aside for this person, and it's very structured. I'm kind of more like organized chaos, but
Well, yeah.
and pretty much every aspect of my life, not just that one. But
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. And how would you define polyamory? If you were just going to be giving the most simple, direct definition you could.
I would say that polyamorous people, being non-monogamous folk, that is the antonym here, are people who accept that they can love more than one person at the same time. Some people practice it on a purely sexual level, and some people allow it to develop into other meaningful relationships. It's really just up to the person as to how they want to do that. So
Would you consider polyamory and ethical non-monogamy sort of interchangeable concepts?
I feel like it is, because when you're poly, you communicate everything to your partners. There can't be a situation in which people are not talking to one another, or it's just not going to work. So it's all got to be very open and honest, and those parameters are set by whoever's in the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And well, that's the thing. Communication is important when you've got two people in a relationship. Adding extra people, even as satellites, has got to mean lots of communication.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everybody has to be on the same page, or it could be messy. I've been to some messy places before,
And one thing that also I think is worth discussing is sort of the erasure aspect, because that's something that we spoke about bisexual erasure. That certainly happens with asexuals and aromantics. Oh, you just haven't met the right person, blah blah blah. What sort
Yeah.
of erasure effects do you see from polyamory?
I feel a lot of people take it and apply it to what they would do in a relationship. They have trouble taking themselves out of the equation and accepting that maybe people, think a little bit differently than they do. So the tendency is to be like, well, you're just cheating. But you're not, because people in relationships decide what cheating is and what cheating isn't. Or, it's also worth mentioning that in some places, if you're polyamorous and say you have more than one partner living in your home and you have children, it can be detrimental legally for people to know. And that's still a huge thing, because I don't think, as far as representation is concerned, we're there yet, because people have a very, very limited view of what they think that relationships should be. And it's very, person meets person, they go off, they get married, and they have children, and they, live happily ever after, and that's the end. But not everybody is that way. And I'm sure not everybody is that way. See, you don't want any of it, and I want more of it, so we balance each other out.
Oh yeah, you can have all the romance that I was ever allotted in my life. That's yours now. Thank you for taking that up.
You're welcome.
Yep, thank you. But yeah, I mean, like I see memes all the time of people talking about getting together and getting a big house with their friends and raising kids together, and it's a nice idea. But,
Mhm.
I literally lived that, and it's harder than you think it is.
It is. It is. And
Yeah.
like with Roger, my boyfriend,
Mhm.
he doesn't have children. He's only ever briefly lived with children. So being just like this lone person to joining a family unit is an adjustment. You if that's not you have to take that into consideration as well, because there's going to be a lot of hiccups just integrating people into your life that way.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. It's a strange thing when you're living with a committed romantic partnership that has children together, because you have to have some authority over the children as an adult, but you also have to completely defer to the parents because they're the parents. And
Yeah.
so, it becomes like a very uh, an interesting dynamic there, and you have to. I think everyone has to be on the same page, and they have to be willing to speak up when something bothers them. And it's not just a communication about what you want, but a communication about what your boundaries are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just don't be afraid to set boundaries, because if you don't set those boundaries, nobody's gonna know you feel that way. And then it's just going to get progressively worse, and
Mhm.
you're gonna find yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, if you don't cope with your problems, they're just gonna blow up in your face at some point. That's just the way it is.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, I mean, personally, when I was a lot younger and practicing poly, it was harder for me to set boundaries. It was
Mhm.
absolutely terrifying for me to want to sit down and like create guidelines where everybody's on the same page, because I didn't know how to talk to everybody. So my
Mhm.
tendency was just to push it away. Like, I don't even need to talk to both of them. I'll just talk to this one and we'll get it all taken care of. But
We're women. We're told to
yeah,
people please. We're
yeah,
told to mediate the conflict and stuff and smooth over stuff, and so it is hard to be assertive in relationships, I think, as a woman,
yeah.
especially with men, but even with other women too, I
Hmm.
think. So, uh, and of course, your relationship style is you have multiple boyfriends, but they're not together. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or
Yes.
and so that's different than, say, like a throuple, which would be three people who are all romantically involved with each other, correct?
Correct. It's
And you've
more
been
like I think
you've
they call
had
it a
that.
V.
I'm
Have
sorry.
I had it? I said they call the basically that relationship style is like a V. Here's one
Oh,
person, there's the connector, and then there's the other person. They
okay,
are
so
not a thing,
you're the
but
V.
I connect them. The V. But thruples, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I have been in situations like that before.
yeah. Very different. Whoa.
Yes, very different. Yeah,
uh,
because you're talking about your relationship issues that you may have with not one person but two people, and they may think completely different things. So lots and lots of listening. I Yeah.
how much of the community do you think is the sort of V type relationships versus, say, a polycule versus, say, a throuple? Where do you think it kind of breaks down, sort of roughly, obviously?
It's really hard to say, because when I think about it, I don't know that I have met two women in my adult life who are in the same type of relationship that I'm in, where
Hmm.
they are, you know, born a woman and then they're romantically linked to two men and cohabitating, or,
Hmm.
you know, dating
Yeah.
in general. So
Mm,
I don't feel like that coupling in particular is quite as common. And I
mhm,
think a lot of that has to do with like how people are socialized.
mhm.
Yeah, like there's again the whole like we talked about on our bisexual feature, um the idea of the toxic masculinity. Oh, if my girl's seeing this guy, then what's he got that I don't have? And it's like a
Yeah,
pissing contest, but it doesn't have to be that way.
right, yeah. You have to be a fairly confident man in this society to know that
Yeah,
your girlfriend has another man in her life, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Like people talk about, oh, that's just cheating, that's dishonest. It's like no, absolutely the opposite of that, because you have to have a very good level of trust.
Mhm,
You have to know that, at the end of the day, that you and your partner are on good terms,
mhm,
and that everything is going smoothly. You can't just brush it under the rug and, you know.
mhm.
But I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of work." Yes and no. I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's not very much different from other types of relationships
Yeah,
in that you have to talk to each other. You have to be able to set boundaries. You have rules for what you feel like you're comfortable with in a relationship. And everybody has that, even if they're not poly. So
right.
usually that's kind of how I try to get people to understand. Hey, you know how in your relationship you don't like it when your partner does this thing because it makes you uncomfortable or reminds you of something bad. Um, I do the same thing, but I just do it with an extra person, you know?
Mhm. Um, uh, polyamorous people, that is there ever, are there polyamorous people who strictly have just sexual relationships with their partners, or with
I mean, there is, there's a hookup culture for sure, I would say. The
Mhm,
whole, you know, threesomes, people like will go as far as that sometimes, maybe not further
yeah.
into, relationship
And you would
territory.
would you consider that polyamory if people just occasionally do, casual
Like
threesomes or something like that?
group sex. I mean, I feel like, yeah, because a lot of people who come into that situation are already couples,
Mm,
and they're allowing intimacy with multiple people.
mhm.
So, I mean, I know that amorous love. I feel like it's of course it's a little bit different when it's just sex, but some people, that's what they do. There's I know a couple that live here that it's all strictly sexual. They don't have, other partners aside from one another as far as
Mhm,
relationships concerned, but
mhm.
sexually they can do what they want.
See, I always called people like that swingers, because I knew these people that had a swinger bar down in Hollywood, Florida, that we used to go to all the time, get drunk, and there was like a couple, and then they would swing and have, you know sexual contact with other people, but they didn't have emotional relationships with
Correct.
other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's pretty similar. There's some people that just like the idea of inviting another person in for sexual gratification. And then there are people who say, I don't want sexual gratification. I want a connection with this person. Some
Mhm,
people may say go as far as to just be like, all right, I want a friend with benefits outside
mhm,
of a relationship, and may not even want that sort of, a committed relationship. They may just want to, like, have a friend they can, be sexy with sometimes. But then there's the folks like me who just are like, I love you and I love you.
You love love. Let's
I
be
do.
honest.
I mean,
You
true.
love being in love. You love love and love.
Oh,
More
yeah.
people do good things as far as you're concerned, right?
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. No.
No, I think that giving and receiving love is important.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
and that's different for everybody.
Yeah. What about, do you know much about like polycules? Because I hear about that a lot, and that seems like that's common with polyamory and among the like Zoomers, the generation behind us.
Yeah, there's some of I know that personally, I kind of limit myself, like, like two or three would be okay. But, in bigger situations like that, sometimes it's, there's four people living in the house. They're all poly, and I've known people like younger generation folks who, have five or six partners at the same time. And they're just, some people like their polyamory to be discreet. Like they agree to it, but they're like, I don't want to hear about that. Then there are other people who, they don't mind, being in the know. They probably don't want like graphic details or anything, but like they're fine. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people who do want graphic details. We're going to be honest about that. But, it's all about personal preference. And some people do the whole kitchen table polyamory thing, which is kind of what I do. Everything's out on the table. We have little house meetings. We talk to each other about, what's going on, issues that we're having. It's like I'm a CEO of a company or something. I don't.
I guess you are.
I
You got all
mean,
these men you got to order around. You got those two rambunctious young men of yours, your little boys, and then also your children.
yeah. And on that note, the dog's gonna bark.
Well, it was a pretty bad joke, so I'm not too offended that the dog barked at me for that one.
I mean, the thing though, I was anticipating it. I was waiting for you to get to that joke. It's like she's gonna do it. She's gonna do it. I'm waiting for it.
When I took you, I faked you out. Be honest.
Yeah.
You thought
Yeah.
maybe she's not gonna go there, and then I did.
Yeah.
That's comedy. It's all about timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, we're way off track. Well, the really the last talking point here is what you think people outside of your community have the most trouble understanding about the community. And this is probably, you could talk about that all night, but
Absolutely. But really, the biggest thing is there are people who are, I feel, wired to be monogamous. Some people out of the genuine desire to be monogamous, or maybe others where that's just how they were raised and they accept it. I mean, I think we all start out that way, and it's
yeah, we're all told that's what we want,
and you don't,
and you have to
get
unlearn
older and
that.
you realize there are more options.
Yeah, exactly.
And feel like people don't understand that they can't wrap their heads around the idea that you can love somebody, like more than one person at the same time, because they've always seen, oh, this is the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, the one I'd live and die for. They don't understand that some people feel that way about more than one person, and that's okay too. Like, so yeah, that's definitely a big thing. I get a lot of questions. Surprisingly, the most common question is like, so the guys, do they like get together? Like, man, if only, like, they're straight.
But no, this isn't.
But no, actually, that is not happening.
Yeah, no. It's weird. Like I think it's strange why people are so obsessed with how other people get their sexual gratification.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that seems
like
like when it's something taboo, like polyamory, that's where they go first every time. It's like
yeah.
when I was married the first time and I had another partner, I would have people ask me like, "Who's better in bed?" It's like, why do you want to know any of this? Like, why is this any of your business? Like,
Now, full disclosure, back then when you were married before, and we were pretty tight, we were like in a QPR that we didn't know we were in. I might have asked you that question because I was like there in your life all the time. But
yeah,
that would have been completely different than just like
yes,
random
and
people.
just random, like, so hey, or somebody that you're casually like friends with that you don't know very well, and they just kind of throw that out at you, and you're like, what are you doing? Like,
Like, that's something that I'm sure you're fine, comfortable talking about that kind of stuff with, someone you're super close with. But
yeah,
that's not something that you should like ask polyamorous people about unless you're like super, super close with them.
yes, yes. Uh, yeah, it's people do just love to go right there. Like the whole think about any other label. People go towards sex immediately.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to know how that looks in their head. How is this going to work? What's that going to be like?
Right.
And it's like, man, you guys are missing the whole point. Like you sit there and you want to say that people who don't identify with your community are just broken and wrong and sex crazed and stuff, but you are the guys that are actually sitting there just shredding everything down to the point where it's just, what's the sex like?
Yeah. And like really the romance part is the most important part, I think, in polyamory. Again, from my vicarious experience, like
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Like I know people who boyfriends, husbands raised children together. That's the situation that I'm in now and have been for a few years now. Um, but I know not everybody seeks that same kind of commitment.
mhm,
And that's just works for me. And people don't they they have this obsession with this like traditional family and
mhm,
mom, dad, kids. They don't understand that I think the biggest thing is I tell them, my children have an extra person to love them. How is that a bad thing?
right,
My children are being exposed to healthy adult relationships. How is that a bad thing?
right,
Yeah. These are these are things that, I wish that I had growing up.
right,
If I could, and that's why I've always loved family so much because those
mhm.
are the people that, love you no matter what, they've got you.
Right. Yeah, the whole world might be kind of like, what are you doing? But your family, they got you.
Yeah. At least my personal experience. Now, not everybody has that experience either, for sure.
Right, right, right. But that's the family that you've built for yourself.
Hmm.
Your husband and your children and now Roger as well. The family you've built for yourself are the
Yeah.
people that got your back.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't something that happened overnight,
No.
but you got there. So good for you, girl.
my I also people ask me all the time, like, well, then why did you even bother getting married? It's like, I got married before. So it's not like, oh, I got married to someone while I was already with Roger. I
Yeah,
was that's where I was already at, and he knew that coming into it. So
right.
it's not something that really bothers any of us.
Right.
Yeah.
If there were a way for you to be married legally to both of your partners, would you want to be?
I think, yeah, but I don't know that they both want that,
Mm,
because I feel like um I have one partner that's not really like big on marriage, and that's cool.
hmm.
So, we already live together. It's like we're practically there anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's a complicated topic for every single polyamorous person, to decide
Yeah.
what they would want for themselves. But yeah, and there's all sorts of different variety on that.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I have known people that have been in a situation where they have a boyfriend and they have another boyfriend and they marry one of them and they all stay together anyway.
Hmm.
So it again, it really depends on the people involved, and you have to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Right.
So do good at picking your people.
That's the best advice you could probably give anybody.
Yeah, do good at picking your
Whatever
people.
your
Like you need people that are gonna be okay talking about difficult subjects, talking about stuff that might make you uncomfortable, because it needs to be done. And I feel like that can be said about pretty much anything when you're trying to, be an adult in this world.
Oh
But
yeah.
just talk to each other. That's my
Yeah.
biggest thing. Just talk to each other.
Well, on that note, I think we're gonna have to end because Zoom's yelling at me that we're running out of time.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Okay.
well, thank you again, Katrina.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and